that green bar with the stream health. That's so much better than the red and the yellow. So we have a makeup stream going on today, Saturday evening. We could not stream. It's very understandable why we could not. So I am making up for Saturday today, and that also leaves next Saturday open for our next live stream topic. I didn't want to just keep putting it back and putting it back and putting it back. If Saturdays continue to be a streaming issue, I'm just going to switch the day to something that's a little less congested. So we are going to be working on this really cute cat girl waitress paper child. You can find a link in the description to where you can purchase it and download it, print it yourself, and color along over on Gumroad. My wonderful Artnerds on Patreon have free access to this. They have free download access to this, so that is a great reason to consider joining me on Patreon. It starts at just $1 a month, and you get so much more than just access to line arts like this one, although this is certainly a great reason to consider backing. I create a lot of free accessible art education both here on YouTube and over on the blog. So if you believe that art education should be for everyone and you have a little bit of money to spare right now, supporting that cause is one of the ways you can help support art education being accessible and affordable to the masses. Hey Tali, good evening. So before we dive in to our paper child line art, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you guys about. So I'm gonna switch the view just a little bit. So 7-inch Kara is really close to hitting Kickstarter. I know I've been talking about it a lot, but we have the launch page up, and I would really appreciate it if you guys clicked notify me on launch if you're interested in this project. That is not a financial commitment. It just allows you to follow the progress on Kickstarter. It lets you know when the project has launched, and it lets you know when we've hit different milestones, as well as when it's been funded. So I will pop a link to that down in the description for you guys. Hey Nisa, good evening. I hope both of you have had safe and healthy weekends this weekend. So if you're interested more in learning about comic process, I've written a lot about comic process over the years in my Intro to Comic Craft series, both on the blog and here on the channel. But I have a 7-inch Kara mailing list where I'm sharing all sorts of behind the scenes process for you guys, stuff that I haven't shared on the channel or on the blog. And it is totally free. Of course, it's free. It's a mailing list. So I will also drop that down. Hi, Zara. Hi, Zara. Thank you so much. Okay, so the music that we are playing tonight comes from one of the Humble bundles. I am going to grab a link since last time we tried to stream this, somebody thought the music was really cool. So I want to make sure they have access to that. So we'll switch back over to the art desktop. And it's going to take me just a minute to find it, so I appreciate your patience. What'd you guys do this weekend? Read-only memories is the music bundle. Do you remember the name of the music bundle? Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, well, I can't find the music bundle. Oh, yes I did. Just had to check a different tab. Eat, sleep, draw. That sounds like a good weekend. And research, is it research for your comic or is it research towards your degree, Tally? Right, but it lists some of the artists who have contributed to it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this since this is kind of a longer tutorial. It's gonna be in two main parts. We're gonna have the coloring portion. For this paper child, I'm gonna use alcohol markers, but you can use whatever you have on hand when you're making these. And I'm gonna go grab a couple of examples in a second, but you can use Crayolas if you've got Crayolas, you can use watercolor if you have watercolor. It's not like specifically alcohol marker, that's just what I wanted to use for this one. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this two-dimensional drawing and turning it into a three-dimensional pop-up figure. And if you guys follow my work on Instagram, you may have seen some of the photos that I've been sharing. So let me go grab those examples. I'm going to pop up my new Okay, so for paper children, the definition of a paper child is they're usually made from paper, they're cut out, and they're designed to have a three-dimensional element, like they can stand on their own, or they're capable of sitting in your hand. This angle is not great for this, but you guys can kind of see. Or they're capable of laying, as this one is doing here. Oof. Ooh, VCam wants to cut poor Kara out. It's so like focused on face only. You can't see her. Or you can use them as like cute little bookmarks, or they can interact with 3D objects in your world, like designed to hold a pencil or something. The paper child we're going to be making today, she is going to have a triangular base like this. So not only do you want to have handy the materials you want to use to color her, but you also, too many things on the desk. You also want to have like scissors handy. You want to have some glue handy. You may want to use like an X-Acto blade to help cut. And if you're going to use an X-Acto blade, then you should be using a cutting mat. You're going to want to have some glue or some tape handy. Basically anything you would use for any kind of like cut out paper craft, you're going to want to have that handy this evening. Or you can just kind of hang out, watch, see what I'm doing, gather some ideas, and then later on when you've had a chance to kind of watch what works and what doesn't work, you can make your own. So I do have a follow-up tutorial that's going to be released at some point. It's been recorded, I just don't know when I'm going to put it into the schedule for actually I think it's this paper child and two more in the series with her, if that makes sense. So like a hammock style one, and then there's like another standing one. So I hope you guys will look forward to that. These were watercolored. So when you are making paper children, you want to work on a heavier paper. So the paper I'm using tonight is Strathmore 300 series Bristol. So it's like a thicker kind of paper. Or you want to work on cardstock or construction paper. If you're working on a thinner paper, then when you cut, you're going to want to glue it to like chipboard. So like a cereal box, you know, that thin cardboard, you're going to want to glue it to like that. And then cut the whole thing out, and that's going to give it some stability because they need to be able to stand up without just like flopping over. And even when they're made of sturdy paper, I still reinforce them a lot with additional paper. So for the first part of this tutorial, we're going to be doing a lot of coloring. I've already gone ahead and swatched the color palette I'm going to use for this one. It's inspired by the color palette for the mermaid that I did last week. So a lot of really saturated colors. And I'm not brand specific when it comes to alcohol markers. So you guys will see Neopicos, Kurotakes, Copics, Prismacolors, Blick Studio brush markers. Basically, if it's a brush marker and I like it and it's the right color, then I'm going to be using it tonight. Oh, nice! Telly, I'm so excited that you're working on a mini comic. I hope you'll share it with us. Just popping out the chat so I can follow it a little bit more easily. I'm also going to be dual recording tonight like I have been for these tutorials. So if I stand up randomly and lean over, it's because I am messing with my phone. I'm using that to record a secondary footage of this. I'm going to use that for a time-lapse tutorial. That way, people who don't want to watch a 2-hour live workshop after it's no longer live will have a 20-minute version. Or for people who maybe it's like they want to rewatch it because they might have missed something, but 2 hours is a lot to like scrub through and look for that specific thing. So hopefully the tutorial will be an easier way to handle that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that recording, and then we can start the coloring part. So I'm gonna keep the swatches over to the side. Actually, what I want to start out with is a really light blue. We're going to use this as the shadow color on her eyes. As well as the shadow on her teeth. And maybe we'll use a little bit of the colorless blender. And what that's going to do is it's going to push the color to the back of the paper. That's another good reason to work on thicker paper. And then while that dries, I will start on the first layer of her skin tone, and I am using Color Ivory to start out with. And this little cat waitress turned out so cute. I'm working on a mouse waitress like companion piece, and I want to give her a darker skin tone so that we have two cuties. So this line art was inked with the Tombow Fudenosuke. Wow. Fudenosuke. No? Gosh, I'll get it. Fudenosuke. Fudenosuke. There we go. I did it. Brush pins. Those are available in multiple different colors, so they can be really fun for these sort of color line arts. And they seem to be, they're definitely alcohol marker proof, but they seem like they're also waterproof, which is awesome. So I left a little bit of white on her cheek just as a highlight. Then I'm going to go in with C405. So this is a Neopico color. So I think I've mentioned in some of the, like, not last week, but the week before, one of those streams, that Nashville has opened back up, or opened up to stage 2, which I don't know, honestly, when it comes to Nashville, how we're handling COVID reopening is a little bit opaque to me. Some of the businesses that have been open as necessary businesses, it doesn't necessarily really make a lot of sense, but that's okay. I don't have to get it. All right, so I'm gonna blend this out just a little bit with the previous color. So that is ivory. But today, Joseph and I went to Cheekwood Botanical Garden because it's Members Day. And that kind of means you, as a member, can go and there's going to be smaller crowds, and it also means you can book your time. So I thought that might be one of the safer ways to actually get to go and enjoy the botanical garden. And I'm really glad we went because it was really nice. So we go for a lot of walks, but it's nice to be able to kind of get out and try new things, I guess. I mean, we go to the botanical gardens pretty often when COVID is not going on, but it's nice to just kind of go out and enjoy the flowers again. Oh, snap! That was actually my third color. I was going to use... What was my middle color for that? Oh, E00. That makes sense. Doodle doodle doo. Well, that's okay. I think we can still make it work. I don't even know. I mean, I kind of think it needs a middle color in some areas, but that... we'll figure it out. So this is Copic E00, and I'm just kind of applying it to those transition areas that got kind of missed. I'll give this a chance to dry because alcohol marker, like watercolor, wet into wet you get the softer blends, wet over dry you get the stronger transitions, and I want the more the more striking contrast. So while that dries, I'm going to go back into the eyes. This is B00. And I'm going to apply a curved line of this darker blue to the top half of the eye, which gives us kind of this striking sort of shadow. And while I wait on the skin tone to dry, I'm going to start in on the white shadows on her clothing. So her gloves. And when you're applying shadows to white, you're really, for the most part, just going to be coloring the white areas. Sorry, you're just going to be coloring the areas that are in shadow. And you can leave it a more striking transition like that, or you can go back in with your colorless blender and kind of soften that transition back to white. Now, I don't know why this B00 wants to act like it is basically dry, but what I'm going to do is I'll pause the secondary recording and I'll just refill it a little bit. just so it doesn't act like it's super dry. That's a little bit better. What's probably wrong with this marker is the nib is probably wrecked, so I probably need to replace the nib. Yeah, definitely think part of the problem is a wrecked nib. Okay, so our skin has had a chance to dry, so I want to start going in with the blush. So for this piece, I'm going to use R01, E93, and R02. Start with E93. Right, no, E95. That's weird. I don't think I picked. Okay, well, so what I was afraid would happen happened. When I picked up from the failed stream on Saturday night, some of the markers got out of order, and I should have been more careful when I was laying them back out. So I need to definitely double check my work. Fortunately, oh, snap-a-doodles. E95 was going to be the last color on shading my skin. Okay. Well, we'll let that dry. And we'll go into the white fabric and add some more defined shadows with B00. The washi tape on the markers signifies two different things. So when I teach marker classes, I will bring in my markers so that my students have access to the colors that we're talking about and that I know they have that access. I also have more skin tones than the shop will usually. I often used to teach marker classes with Plaza, and they provided me with a 24 color set to use for the students, but that's not really enough skin tones. It's definitely not enough earth tones. So the washi tape on the markers signifies, one, that those are my markers. So when the students are helping me by putting the markers away, they know to just put all the markers with washi tape in my box. Some of them don't listen and they do what they want, but it's supposed to make that easier, and it makes it easier for me later because I always double check anyway. And I also use the washi tape to help separate them out into specific sets. So one of these washi tapes denotes that it's part of the set I put together for like the easy tri-blends, and others denote that they're part of the floral set or part of my skin tone set, just so that it's easier. Oh dear. Give me a sec. My lavalier mic got all wrapped up around my wheel of my chair. There we go. Just so it's easier for me visually when I'm picking things up and putting things out. think I would have heard the camera beep when it ran out of room, but it didn't. And I actually want to go a little bit darker with the blue. So I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to dig to see if I can find a good color real quick. The good color that because I'm going to do teal for her dress, so I don't want to get like too warm blue. Another thing is, like watercolor, alcohol markers dry lighter than they initially go down. So you want to give your markers just a minute to evaporate a little bit so you can get a better idea of what the color actually looks like. All right, now let's go in and do that blush. So I have R01, and really the E11 wasn't bad at all. It's a nice warm color, so wasn't a bad start. And then I'm going to go in with E93. And then finally R02. And I just happen to be blend crazy. You really don't need this many blends. It's probably overkill. Okay, so of the two colors I swatched, I actually think I want to go with, this is B14. So that was not the color I thought I was going to go with, and that's why I'm glad I let my swatch dry first. And I'll do just a little bit at the very tippy tops of the eyes. Usually I only use like 2 colors at most for eyeshadow. Eyes shadow, rather. And I'll use it here on the back side of the glove, and then way down here at the bottom. And hopefully that'll dry to that color. And just softening some of that shadow transition a little bit with some overblending. Oh, thank you, Indie Kitty. A little bit more blush on the lips with R02, and then hopefully the skin has dried enough that I can add some delineated, defined shadows, some cast shadows with RE95. So earlier last week, I ran a poll where I asked if people would rather the Paperchild tutorial or a viewer sketch request stream. So I think next week I'm going to do the viewer sketch request stream because it's been a while since we've done that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a timer, and every sketch request I take gets about 10 minutes. Okay, so for her eyes, I wanted to do kind of like a yellowy green. So I'm going to start with YG00. Then quickly go over that with Blick 032. And I'll leave the bottom, that initial layer. Then I'm going to do Blick 042. And then go in with Copic BG13. And what that's going to do is it saturates the paper and it gives us this really, really soft blend. So I'm going to let that dry. Sorry, my lavalier mic keeps getting all tangled up around me. And move those over to the side. Oh, you know what is supposed to be white, and I didn't color it white? Her apron. So here we have B000. So I'm going to do a cast shadow underneath the bell. And a shadow under her bust. A shadow on the waist. I'll put the whole bow tie or bow in shadow behind her. A shadow here at that fold. And then all of the ruffles that are kind of away from the viewer, I'll put those almost entirely in shadow. No Joseph today. It's not the usual stream day, so I knew I was kind of inconveniencing him by switching that up a whole lot. So he's actually downstairs doing something else. I don't know what. I know you guys will miss him though, but he'll be back next Saturday. So now I'm using BG00 to get some of these more blended shadows. I'll let that, you know what, no. I'm gonna go straight in with the B14 and then blend that back out. We'll see how that looks. I think I'm going a little bit dark so it doesn't quite read as like white fabric, but that's what gouache or bleed proof white or any sort of correctional whatever is good for. This would also be really cute with cut paper, so maybe in the future we'll do a tutorial on that too. You know, honestly, I would hear it. At first, when he first went downstairs, I was like, oh, he's going to play DDR. It wouldn't surprise me if before the stream is over, I start hearing the give it your best. Show us your moves. No, it is not fan art. It is, so it's a cat girl made, and it's going to turn into like, sorry, I'm just checking my camera, a 3D paper child. So actually, she's kind of based on a cat I used to have who passed away. Remy, she was a little ginger tabby Manx. And I don't know, I'm usually drawing Remy. Hi Bidoof, good evening. Hey B. I'm impressed you guys made it. I thought changing the night was gonna just mess everybody up. Okay, so now it's time for some freckles. And the colors I want to use for the freckles are E34 and PB95. I'd have to ask him. He likes like 14-foot songs because he likes to be basically half dead when he gets off the mat. I'm pretty partial to Boom Boom Dollar. I also like If You Were Here With Me. And I gotta say, I am a sucker for Love Shine and, of course, Butterfly because that's the rules. I'll definitely tell him you guys kind of missed him too. She is not part of 7-inch Kara. She is just kind of an original. Honestly, I wanted to do something really animated. She's just something else. That's my... So, give me a sec. Let me check out what's going on. I have a feeling I know what's going on. But, yeah. Becca, you ran out of space. Give me a sec. You know, I have a huge SD card and I still run out of space. It's all video. I can't keep up. Okay. There we go. It is a good song. So I did the first layer of freckles with E34. Now I'm doing a second slightly darker layer of freckles with PB95.